and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2023-24 season. My name is Dan and it's time for our Game Week 36 episode of Buy, Sell, Keep, Avoid, where we're going to have a look at some transfer moves you should consider making and you should consider not making. Guys, if you do enjoy this one, please do drop a like, do subscribe. If you're new around here, let's have a look at the rules of the video. So buys are players you probably don't have but should consider bringing in, sells are players you probably have but should consider removing, keeps are players you might be thinking about removing but I think you should keep them, and avoids are players that are pretty hyped up right now but I think they're potential traps that should be avoided. There we go, guys. Those are the rules of the videos. A quick look at last game week scores. Yeah, real mixed bag from last game week. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Obviously, there's still a few games to play, well, a few players to play from this list because Chelsea and Spurs have that Thursday game. But I have to admit, guys, looking through the scores of the players from last week in their one game week scores, I guess, I definitely regretted a lot of the picks I've made on the Buy, Sell, Keep, Avoid video when it came to Liverpool's game on Wednesday. Completely changed my mind on a lot of things, which is quite crazy, but that's it, guys. The Buy, Sell, Keep, Avoid videos, they're not meant to be the final decisions. The final decisions videos are meant to be the final decisions, but they're just try to get you thinking, get an idea of what kind of players we are looking at potentially targeting. So as always, yeah, Liverpool players really disappointed. I think maybe West Ham players like Bowen really did well against Liverpool, and players like Eza, well, we found out late that he was actually injured, but we didn't know that at the time. But we're going to do our best this week anyway to try and figure out some potential picks for the week. So let's start off with some buys in at the defensive positions, and I think there's a huge potential opportunity here with Stefan Ortega. Now again, don't quote me on this one because it's not confirmed yet, but it is not looking good for Edison. Edison could find himself out for the remainder of the season. We've seen a pretty, well, we don't know exactly what the injury is yet. Hopefully we're going to find out in the next couple of days. He should be being assessed pretty much right now as I record this video, and we're going to get a better idea of how Edison is. But if Edison is out until at least game week 38, Ortega at 3.7 million becomes almost an essential gift of FPL that you don't get very often, and this one will hopefully be the real deal as we look through these fixtures. Wolves at home looks like a real good opportunity for a clean sheet. Then we've got the likes of Fulham, definitely a clean sheet opportunity there for Man City, and maybe against Spurs as well. West Ham obviously there to finish off the season. So I think for Man City there's huge opportunities to invest in a nailed on defensive asset so long as Edison is out for the season. And at 3.7 million, he's almost 2 million cheaper than Edison, and he's like, you know, probably like 1.3, 1.4 million cheaper than the next kind of most nailed on defender, I guess, from City. And there's no such thing as a defender who is nailed on at Man City. If I had to go for one right now, it would probably be Guardiola, but just be aware that if you do go for Guardiola, there is a potential that he does miss one of the games in the double game week. There's always that risk with the Man City defenders. When goalkeepers a little bit safer at 3.7 million, Ortega could be huge, great bargain. For the defenders, speaking of, I am going to go for Burn as our defender choice. Burnley, a team that does typically struggle to get goals, as we know, and Newcastle improving defensively recently, which I think is going to be pretty nice for them. At 4.6 million, Dan Burn is still the main aerial target threat, target man for this Newcastle side when they're whipping in those set pieces, and it looks like Kieran Trippier could be back for the final 3 games of the season. If he is, well, good news for Burn as he is going to be able to get on the end of Trippier's amazing crosses and hopefully score the odd goal as well. So really like him for the Burnley fixture, really like him for the double game week. That Brighton fixture in particular, I think is a good opportunity for a clean sheet at home for Dan Burn. And I think these Newcastle defenders it's worth going in on one of them, whether that's Burn, whether that's Trippier when he's back, whether that's Fabian Schär if he's going to be available as well, which I think Fabian Schär, I don't think the injury is as bad as maybe people are making it out to be. I think he might actually be fine for this game week as well, but get yourself a Newcastle defender. Still very much recommended players. Now, De Bruyne is going to be my midfield buy, but I should definitely say this. If you already have Foden or if you don't have Foden, I would say go for Foden first. So Foden is probably a better FPL asset than De Bruyne. Obviously, Foden's been pretty disappointing recently, been away from the Man City starting 11 for various reasons, through injury, through restings and rotations, and through illness in game week 35, which has basically led to a lot of people feeling down on Foden. But Foden, when he's back, he's going to be unreal, and he is probably the most important buy in midfield for this game week. However, I know most of you guys already have Phil Foden in your team, and if you want to supplement that with an extra Man City player, I think De Bruyne is definitely going to be a huge transfer target for this week against Wolves, as well as for the double game week and the game week 38 fixture as well. So really, really nice opportunity here for De Bruyne. For me personally, if I'm going to go for 3 Man City players, I would prefer to triple up on the attack than go in on the defense necessarily. I know depending on structure though, it's going to maybe force some people into certain particular moves, but I like Foden, De Bruyne and Haaland as picks. I think you've got to have at least 2 of those 3 players, and De Bruyne hopefully can be a part of that. But if it's not possible, it's not possible. Like I say, Foden is the main priority there, and there's going to be some other midfielders that look pretty good for this week as well. But do like De Bruyne, looking good for numbers. He's taking a lot of shots, particularly from range. He's taking like 4 shots per game at the moment, which is really, really nice. Creating a decent amount as well, and when you're creating for high quality finishers in the team, you're always going to have assists coming your way as well. And for our forward, it's still Alexander Isak. He's still going to be that #1 transfer target among forwards for you guys to get if you haven't got him already. Burnley up next, a man on penalties, a man in great form, 5 goals in his last 5 games. He's pretty much scoring a goal per game at the moment, which is perfect for those forwards who also often get those bonus points as well, which Isak again has consistently proven that he's scoring goals, getting bonus points is exactly what we need in our FPL live. So long may it continue against Burnley, against a nice double game week against Brighton and Man United. Both teams shipping opportunities, shipping goal chances a lot at the moment. And even that Brentford fixture, I think, is pretty nice for a forward, for an attacker like Isak. So yeah, looking forward for him producing much, much more. I think given his form, he's probably reasonably nailed on, even with the return of Wilson. It would be kind of ridiculous to bench a player who is playing this well for a Callum Wilson right now. Neto, pretty easy sell. 2 clean sheets in a row for Bournemouth, and both those games, Neto has not been in the starting 11. So suddenly a rotation risk, defender, goalkeeper, I guess, and Arsenal away up next. It's a really, really easy jumping off point, because even if you do think Neto is going to replace Travers in the starting 11 for Bournemouth, what are you honestly expecting against this Arsenal team that are just scoring so many goals at the moment? Well, you're probably not expecting very much, to be fair. So despite Neto maybe being an okay pick in the past, maybe a month or so ago, now just not looking like it. Got to be sold. Get rid. Go away, Neto. We're bringing in new goalkeepers for the final stretch of the season. And Van Dijk for Liverpool. Liverpool defenders in general most likely are going to be sells as they play Spurs and Aston Villa in the next 2 game weeks. 2 teams more than capable of getting goals. And Van Dijk at his kind of price, you know, you can maybe throw in players like Robertson, Trent in that kind of area as well. Alisson for a goalkeeper. Just get rid of them all, to be honest, because no real chance of clean sheets. Small chance of attacking returns, but really with no clean sheets, you don't want to be spending this amount of money with these horrible 2 fixtures. Plus, no double game weeks either, and there's going to be some opportunities elsewhere. Of course, guys, if you have other defenders in your team who are currently injured, then they're going to be your priority sells ahead of someone like Van Dijk. However, if we're looking at fully fit players that we might want to consider selling, Van Dijk has got to be top of that list. Another Liverpool player on this sell list, unfortunately, is going to be Mo Salah. He is another player who doesn't seem nailed on right now. We've gone from a few weeks ago thinking Salah, Neto, these are just nailed on players, right? Not anymore, unfortunately. And after a bit of a spat with the manager at the weekend, I wonder how much game time Salah is going to get over the final 3 games of the season. Now, of course, he will play some games, but I don't think he necessarily is guaranteed to start 3 for 3 in this final run. And given his very, very poor form at the moment, he's just not scoring goals, he's not finishing his chances, and he's not even particularly getting as many chances as he has done previously outside of penalties, and therefore, is it just worth selling him? 13.5 million is a lot of money to spend on an FPL asset, and given there's just some better midfield options in particular out there at the moment, Man City midfielders in particular, I would love to go for some of those guys. Foden, De Bruyne, these are perfect replacements for the likes of Salah. And you can even go elsewhere. Arsenal still looking very good with their midfielders. Saka, Havertz, Ødegaard there as well, potentially. There's just so many options, and I think Salah just saved the money and you can reinvest it elsewhere, particularly if you're looking to bench boost in Game Week 37. It might actually be a good idea to free up a little bit of your budget. And we've got Solanke here, another Bournemouth player. So we've got 2 Bournemouth players, 2 Liverpool players in the sell kind of area. I think all of these players from Liverpool and Bournemouth you can definitely consider selling at the moment. We could also put Darwin in this sell category as well. We're going to go for Solanke. His numbers are significantly down over the last 6 games, and Arsenal away up next is, you know, the worst fixture a forward can play. So very, very simple and straightforward sell. Few people looking to sell Onana. I understand why the Manchester United defence has been a little bit disappointing, but in fairness to Onana, he makes saves. He makes a hell of a lot of saves every single game. He's like averaging 4 or 5 saves per game at the moment, and that is going to spell extra points. We saw against Burnley, it was very close. Onana was very, very close to keeping a clean sheet in that game. A goal late on for Burnley, and if he did keep a clean sheet, I know we're talking about ifs, but this is the thing with Onana. If Manchester United can keep a clean sheet, and looking at this Crystal Palace, the Brighton fixture, there's going to be possibilities to keep clean sheets here, then Onana is a, you know, 10, 11 point player in goal. You don't see that very often in FPL, to get that goalkeeper who's just making so many saves, collecting bonus points. If they can add that clean sheet, it is a monster haul, and I think there is a chance of that happening at least once over, you know, the next 3 game weeks, including that double in the middle. But at the very least, you're going to be looking at a goalkeeper who is going to be getting you save points. And given that it's so difficult to find a goalkeeper who will keep you regular clean sheets outside of maybe Arsenal's Raya, maybe a Man City goalkeeper, if Ortega is going to be the one for the rest of the season, then fantastic. But if you're looking elsewhere, if you're looking for a goalkeeper who you just know at least is going to get save points, at least you've got that kind of the save points to fall back on, even if you don't get the clean sheet, then Onana is definitely still your guy, so would look to keep him. And you're probably wondering, why is Saliba in the keep section? Surely no one is selling Saliba. You'd be very surprised. He's actually the 2nd most sold defender out of all of the fully fit defenders right now. The first being Van Dijk. Saliba is the 2nd most sold. I think Gabriel is kind of in that area as well. So if you do have a Saliba, Gabriel, Ben White would not be looking to sell these guys despite conceding against Spurs. I think Bournemouth at home is going to be another real nice opportunity for Arsenal to keep yet another clean sheet in their long line of clean sheets that they've kept so far this season. So may it continue for the Arsenal defenders. I think they're going to be a good team to invest in defence for the rest of the season, despite a lack of double game week, and I think they're worth keeping if you already have them, at least for this game week. If you're looking to increase your double game week defenders next week, we can maybe have that conversation again then, but for now, gotta be kept, all Arsenal defenders. People, if you're selling Heung-min Son, maybe trying to get the likes of De Bruyne and Foden in. I understand why people would sell Son to try and get those Man City midfielders in, but for me personally, Son is a player to be kept. Liverpool away is a better fixture than it looks like on paper. Liverpool have been struggling for form recently, and it's also very much a Son fixture. Of course, Son has not been in the greatest form of his career over the past month or so. Actually, to be fair, a few weeks. Let's say few weeks. But before that, you know, he was absolutely banging them in, doing what Son does best, a penalty taker as well, as we saw scoring the penalty in game week 35, which is very, very useful indeed. And we've got that double game week against Burnley and Man City. Again, 2 home fixtures that I think really, really suit Son. And then Sheffield United. We know that's a huge opportunity. And this is going to be a Sheffield United on their final day of the season, knowing full well they are relegated and maybe playing with a bit of freedom. And Spurs given that opportunity to chase down that top 4 place in the Premier League. So I think looking at the remaining fixtures, I think every single one suits Son from here on, and if you have him already, I would definitely be looking to keep him, and if you don't have him, I would say he's one of the players you might think about buying as well. And we've got Erling Haaland as a keep, yes, the 3rd most sold forward this game week after Darwin and Solanke, who admittedly are probably sells. Haaland, on the other hand, he should be going nowhere, and I understand for many people this might be a budget reason, but surely you've got to sell players like Salah before the likes of Haaland. And yes, you can say, well, Haaland has not been in great form either, but he's not been as bad as Salah. And when you look through this, another penalty taker in Haaland, but this player in 3 games, one of which was off the bench in game week 35, has scored 3 goals and got an assist, and his numbers are kind of reflecting roughly those actual performances as well. He's taking shots in dangerous areas. He's got De Bruyne to support him with those excellent through balls, and we've got some great fixtures to finish off the season, including that double game week in game week 37. I personally believe that Haaland is going to be by by far the most popular captain in each of the final 3 game weeks of the season, and I just don't see a way you can go without him, unfortunately. So the Erling Haaland hype must continue on this channel. Sorry, not sorry. Let me know what you think about that one. Finally, some avoids, and we're going to start off with Dubravka because I have a very big concern, and that is Nick Pope. Yes, Nick Pope spotted back in training last week, so we are looking at potentially Pope coming back for the final game weeks of the season. Now, there's a chance Dubravka still gets the Burnley game. However, I should say, some Newcastle fans and insiders are predicting that Pope could return to the squad this game week, which could mean that Dubravka is gone. He's done. Let's see what happens exactly there. But I certainly think that Dubravka is not going to be, you know, an absolute mainstay in this Newcastle team for every game in the remainder of the season. I think we might even see a worst case scenario where by the time we get to game week 37, the big double that I know you guys are targeting, Pope could be back by that time. And if that's the case, again, big trouble. You're going to lose a player. If you're on bench boost and you don't even have a Dubravka starting, you're going to be a player down on your bench boost. And I just think there's trouble brewing for anyone going for Dubravka. So his price tag looks great. It is too good to be true, I do believe. Let's see what happens exactly. Hopefully more information to follow when we get to the press conferences and see if Pope is going to be starting this game week. But what we do know is Dubravka's time is running out in that Newcastle team. And the Spurs defenders in general, I think, are all avoids this week. If you don't already have them, I know a lot of you guys already have them. I myself do have Pedro Porro in my team. I'm sure some of you have the likes of Romero, Van der Ven potentially there as well, Vicario in goal. But it's not the game week to go for them. Away against Liverpool, you do expect Liverpool to score in this game despite their poor form, and therefore we're not going to get clean sheets. And to be fair to Liverpool, they're pretty good at defending set pieces as well, so I wouldn't really be expecting Romero to get as many chances to score goals as he maybe did against Arsenal, although that was a strange one itself. Didn't expect him to get many chances against Arsenal either, really. But yeah, in general, just would not be going for Romero. All of his shots really that you see from his underlying numbers here happened in the Arsenal game, so typically he's not a player who takes many shots on, and I think Liverpool is going to be a team that score against him, so not expecting too many points. Maybe again we can chat about Spurs defenders again in game week 37, where we do have that double including Burnley and Sheffield United in game week 38, which I think is a good couple of opportunities. This week, not so much. Okay, so this is probably the most controversial one of the video, and I don't think I would buy Bruno Fernandes. Now, that doesn't make him a sell, and I want to re-emphasize, as always, guys, a player who is an avoid is not necessarily a sell. Sometimes a player is a don't buy, don't sell. And I think this game week, Bruno Fernandes is possibly a don't buy, don't sell. Because I look at this Crystal Palace away fixture, and I'm not particularly thrilled with it, to be honest. I think it's a pretty poor fixture, actually, for an attack. And we've seen that a few times recently, that players going up against Crystal Palace have disappointed a little bit. The most recent example is probably that Newcastle team. A lot of people invested in the likes of Gordon and Isak, who unfortunately blanked against Crystal Palace, and to be honest, didn't even really get much of a chance to score goals against Crystal Palace away from home, because Palace are just a pretty solid defence right now. They're doing pretty well, particularly in those midfield areas where Bruno would be hoping to pop up with some goals. Now, of course, penalties change everything, and that is the one place where I might be putting my foot in my mouth here a little bit, and we'll look back at my kind of tirade against Bruno Fernandes this week, and I might look rather foolish. However, I think I would give him a miss this week. I think we maybe talk about him again in game week 37 and 38, where I think there are better opportunities for goals for the Manchester United man. I'm just not particularly convinced by him for this Crystal Palace game. I think there's a lot of people who do currently own Bruno, particularly those who wildcarded last week, who are thinking about benching him. So he's a fine player to own. If you already have him, you probably play him. You do probably play him. However, do you buy him this week ahead of the likes of Man City midfielders, Arsenal midfielders? Probably not, in my opinion. So for that reason, Bruno has got to be an avoid, if for nothing else but opportunity cost. By the way, his numbers are fantastic, but a lot of that has been inflated by penalties. Outside of penalties, his XG has not actually been very good. And yes, his XA, his passing, his creativity has been decent, but there's no finishers in this Manchester United team right now other than Bruno himself. And you can't pass to yourself, can you? So, yeah, it's a difficult one with Bruno Fernandes, and I just don't really back him to score that well against Palace when compared to Man City and Arsenal midfielders who I prefer to go for this week. But if you have Bruno already, cannot emphasise this enough, definitely keep him. he is not a sell. No way is he a sell. You must keep him. He's going to be great for the final 2 games of the season, and he could do okay this week as well. But they're just better options this week if you are looking for new players. Finally, we have got Julian Alvarez. Few people looking to take a sneaky punt on him, given that he has started the last 5 games for Manchester City. But it's been incidental. As always, Julian Alvarez plays when Haaland is unavailable, Foden is unavailable, or De Bruyne is unavailable. And for the remainder of the season, it looks like all 3 of those players are going to be available, and Alvarez may see his game time limited, because you will probably have to say that Alvarez is not in Man City's best 11, and they're going to need their best 11 for the final 4 games of the season as they look to hunt down their 1,000,000th Premier League title in a row, or at least it feels that way, doesn't it? So Alvarez, I think he is going to find himself with slightly less minutes for the final game weeks of the season, and therefore is going to be an avoid for me despite the decent fixtures. It's all about game time at the end of the day. If your player is not getting game time, then, you know, it's bad times really in the FPL world. And of course, guys, opportunity cost as well. If you are going for an Alvarez, you are missing out on one of your 3 Man City slots. You know, opportunity cost, think about it. If you go for Alvarez, that means you're going to sacrifice one of Haaland, De Bruyne, Foden, Guardiola, Ortega. Those are the players you really want to have in your team right now. You guys are probably saying Walker as well, of course. I'm not so keen on Walker personally, but, you know, he's definitely a player I would go for ahead of Alvarez right now. So, another avoid. So yes, just in conclusion, guys, I do want to say there is plenty more to find out between now and the end of the week before we go into that deadline on Friday. Of course, particularly, we've got a whole other game to play. Spurs and Chelsea still going to play. We're going to get more information from that, and we're going to get plenty of press conferences and injury information as well that could make big impacts on our decisions. I'm particularly keeping an eye on that Edison Ortega situation, because that could be really, really big for those looking to bring the 3rd Man City players. I would kind of save your transfer until we find out more news on that one. Huge opportunity there, guys. But if you did enjoy this one, make sure you do drop a like, do subscribe if you are new around here as well. Let me know what you thought about the buy, sell, keeps, and avoids. Did I get things right? Have I got things woefully wrong? Is there anything I'm missing? And if there any other players you'd like to talk about, leave a comment and we'll talk about that player down there as well. But aside from that, guys, thank you so much for watching. Once again, 100 experts coming tomorrow. Check out another video, and I'll see you later, mates. Bye-bye.